So I want to share from Rabbi Huda Altan on Chabad.org about man-made people. Sages say that the world was created with 10 divine utterances. We learn this from the Torah, and it's also referenced in the Ethics of the Fathers, chapter 5, verse 1. That's Perkei Avos. And the Kabbalists say each entity of existence was created via a unique combination of supernal letters, specific expressions of divine creative energy, whose arrangement of spiritual powers are designated by God during 6 days of creation, which gives precise qualities makeup of any given creation. If a person with exceptional piety and a high spiritual caliber could harness the divine letters, he can then combine them to create his choice entity, which many sources indicate as a possibility. The Talmud records several accounts of tzaddikim creating animals and humans via Sefer Yetzirah, the early Kabbalistic work that discusses the secret of the divine letters. And it happens to be that was written by, we say, at least Avram, if not Adam. The last thing was from chapter 1 and 12 from Shar Yichud Ve'emuna, which is from the Tanya, by the Alter Rebbe. The earliest historical record is Abraham, our forefather, who, according to Midrashic tradition, created both animals, where it says the calf he made in Genesis Bereshis 18:8, and humans, where it says the souls they made in Haran, which is from Genesis Bereshis 12:5. In fact, Sefer Yetzirah is said to have been from Adam, the first man, and that Abraham contributed to it too, as I mentioned. And Talmud Sanhedrin 65b says Rava made a human who he sent to Rabbi Zera, who conversed with him, but he didn't reply, so he told him, return to the dust. Rabbi Chanina and Rabbi Oshaya sat every Shabbos Eve studying Sefer Yetzirah, and their learning would cause fat calves to be created, which they would then eat. I think that's all for that topic, but and then I want to share from Chafetz Chaim, which is like the lover of life, the one who desires life. He's named for a book he wrote, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, I think his name is. He cites the Midrash Shochar Tov on Tehillim, the Psalms by King David. So there's a commentary on it. Describes a world without chesed as a four-legged chair that wobbles and threatens to overturn. So a small object like a pebble or a piece of wood was placed under the shaky leg, and it makes the chair usable. The chair is thereby firmly set in its place, able to support a man's weight. This is the mechanism of the throne will then be established with kindness. Yeshaya 16:5. The Midrash on this verse says that Hashem's throne of glory can be compared to this shaky chair. It was shaking and incomplete till Hashem supported it from underneath, and with what? Chesed. Chesed is loving kindness. Then we have Rabbi Asher Crisp on inter-inclusion. He says, one of the most famous rabbi immersed in Sefer Yetzirah, remember Sefer Yetzirah I just mentioned, it was Rabbi Hudalo, the Maharal of Prague, from 1520 to 1609. He made the golem, a humanoid creature, artificially brought to life using the information technology contained within the traditions of Sefer Yetzirah. So I did just make that little segue about how we have Hashem created the world with chesed, to say, like, when we're creating a human, we're not God creating it with, like what was just talked about, the throne will then be established in kindness. So, a robot may not necessarily have the kindness of a human. So in various accounts, the process of the golem, making a golem, sounds like programming an information system, combining it with a physical substance made for a kind of reprogrammable matter that simulated life on some level. Some of the most venerated scientists who have their family lineage traced back to the Maharal, who I just mentioned, documented in several academic works, notably Machines Who Think by Pamela McCorduck, and The Second Self by Sherry Turkle. So we have one, Norbert Wiener, 1894 to 1964, founder of cybernetics and major attributor to the nascent stages of AI research, computer science, and neuroscience. John von Neumann, 1903 to 1957, whose computer science contributions include a design architecture used in virtually every computer in the world today, not to mention his contributions to quantum mechanics, game theory, and a host of other disciplines. Marvin Minsky, 1927 to 2016, a founding father, MIT of modern robotics and AI research. Plus, number 4, we have many other computer scientists and physicians. And, when we, I want to share something that I don't know if it's true or not. Somebody told me that when it comes to DNA. There's this man, Garrison Rice, on Instagram. He says God shows off. Like inside the DNA, there's a unit called the sulfur binding domain, which holds the entire DNA strand together. It's a sulfuric bridge. It appears after every 10 nucleic acids that have been laid down, then every 5, then every 6, then every 5. So you would get the order of 10, 5, 6, 5. He says Dr. Rubenstein from Israel is his source, that God actually puts the yud in the hand of Vav and He, which is tetrachromatin. So God has signature. God's kindness is a signature inside of the DNA. And he says that he's not sure if... and I looked up. I saw that there's evidence of this for bacteria, but not necessarily of sulfuric bridges, but not necessarily for humans. I have to do more research, or God willing, I'll learn more about this. And then the other thing Garrison Rice also shares about, which is that if you take Adam, Shes, Enosh, Canaan, Mahalel, Yared, Enoch, Mesusala, because it depends. Sometimes you could actually change th and th and sha, depending on the letters, because the Aramaic and Hebrew, and some of them are translated. Lemech and Noach, so it's 10 generations named from Adam to Noach. He says, if you actually say the name for each of them with their translations into English, you would get a sentence, which is a code. And he says, it's man founded, mortal, shelter, shining of El, descended, education, out of the blue, good for nothing, comfort. So let's go again. Adam, which is a man, Shes, like founded, Enosh, which is a mortal, Canaan, shelter, or even a nest, Mahalel is the shining of El, Yared, descended, Enoch is like Chanoch, which is education or initiation, Meshusla, which is like out of the blue, Lemech is a good for nothing, like we say in Hebrew, like in Yiddish, like a nebach, like a loser, and then Noach is comfort. So man founded, mortal, shelter, shining of El, descended, education, out of the blue, good for nothing, comfort. So we can see what that means to us. He says it means something. And then I want to share about the ravens, because before I go into the next part, which is about the parents, I want to share about the ravens. In Judaism, they're called Orev. So the first species of bird to be mentioned of the birds in the Torah, you could look in Genesis. So in Genesis 8:7, Noah sent a raven from the ark to see if there was dry, and it went out back and forth. Eliezer says the raven didn't return because it was actually feasting on a carcass. So that's from Perkei de Rabbi Eliezer. And Solomon's hair in Song of Songs 5:11 is called black as a raven. Ravens are symbolic of God's mercy in providing for all his creatures, as it says in Job 38:41 and Psalm 147:9. So basically, the parents don't recognize their children. So they're a different color. So they say sometimes when ravens are the wrong color, they often are treated like not family. So it requires us to see God's mercy on all his creatures, because instead of just, only on a human, it's also like on a bird. And then in Kings 17, chapter 17, verse 4-6, Hashem commands ravens to feed Eliyahu Navi, Elijah the prophet. In Sanhedrin 108b, they said that there's 3 that had sex in the ark that were not supposed to in the time of Noah. The dog was doomed to be in the field, to be tied. Cham was smitten in his skin, and that's said to be people who have a high pigment. And the raven expectorates. It's a kind of spitting. All right, Taylor Damiani, she says that the fear of, and then we'll end on a good note. I'll share 2 more things. So first, one more thing is Taylor Damiani. Fear of a narcissistic parent is deep, because it's very deep-seated. It persists long after we leave their home and the relationship. It could be fear of disapproval, which is rejection and abandonment, if we don't conform to their expectations, or if we assert independence. This is done via years of conditioning, emotional manipulation, where love and acceptance is conditional on their approval, and pleasing them becomes a form of survival and safety, as long as we don't disappoint them, basically. That's like the lifestyle. 2, past trauma. So 1, we had fear of disapproval. 2, past trauma, which is parental neglect, emotional, physical, verbal abuse that leaves emotional scars long after the mistreatment stops. Emotional manipulation, which is everything from gaslighting to emotional blackmail to guilt tripping. It's instilling a sense of fear and uncertainty. 4, conditional love. I just want to pause on that one for a second. Emotional manipulation. So gaslighting someone is a form of emotional manipulation. Emotional blackmail is a form of emotional manipulation. And guilt tripping is a form of emotional manipulation. What are you doing? You're manipulating the other's emotions for negative, to have fear and uncertainty. Anyway, conditional, and this makes them feel uncomfortable with their own emotions, right? Conditional love is based on how well the child serves the parent's needs and ego. Failing to meet those needs or the ego of the parent, we lose love. There's this self-representation where boundaries equals losing love. And so we might not be able to connect with our self-worth and our self-respect because we have to keep selling out in order to please them. And 5, the power dynamics, where a narcissist thrives on maintaining power and control, leaving the other person feeling small, powerless, and scared to assert themselves or challenge the authority. We have to acknowledge and validate our feelings that the fear is not weak or does not make us weak or inadequate. And we create safety around making mistakes, being wrong, as well as learning, reading in order to arm ourselves with knowledge, accept that we cannot make people see the real us, and make their own decisions if they're under someone else's control, for example, and be around people who are gentle, compassionate, and patient, sincere, non-judgmental, and generous, and gain and maintain that self-trust, that independence, and that self-confidence. And so obviously the last thing we should talk about is that Shan Sheshan Hashmat Tzipor says that when we become emotionally stronger, we 1, keep a loving state during conflict. 2, we notice our defensiveness. 3, when judging, we remember we're judging a part of ourselves. 4, we never take anything personally. 5, we take a break from substances, junk food. 6, we face what, or even stop using them. 6, face what scares us and even try things that seem scary. 7, let go of fear of being seen. 8, love the dark side. 9, let go of victim mentality. 10, take accountability. 11, live with integrity. 12, be intentional. 13, appreciate my own life. 14, accept the timing of the universe. 15, exercise kindness muscles. 16, use intuition. 17, ask for help to get out of my own way. I think that's a good place to stop. I don't know if I should read it again. I want to read his list one more time. Keep a loving state during conflict. Notice defensiveness. When judging, remember I'm judging a part of myself, and do not take anything personally. Take a break from substances, junk food, and face what scares me, even trying things that can seem scary. Letting go of the fear of being seen and loving my dark side, and letting go of victim mentality and taking accountability. Living with integrity and being intentional, appreciating my life and accepting the timing of the universe. Exercising the muscles of kindness and using intuition. Asking for help to get out of my own way. And that's a good place to stop. May we all experience healing and love, and not seeing ourselves as in a tragic story, but in a beautiful love story where everything is better than we could have imagined, and we wake up feeling precious and free, and without ego struggles or anything, and just being recreated anew, being connected to the programming that we can influence in ourselves.